Good to see you here. And today, we have our guest webinar. Dr. Suprada Das is over here, and many of you already known because he had a before session on related to the spiritual practices in our Bangalore office before a couple of months back. And again, here we welcome him to come for today for this session on product safety and restricted substances in apparel, the topic which he is going to take a detailed session on this today. And I welcome him, sir. Welcome on behalf of our company, RSJ Inspection Service. Thank you for coming and remembering us every time, and then sharing your great knowledge with us. And so just would like to say he already wrote books on the same. He wrote 8 books, and this is his 7th book. It's not clear because of the backdrop. So it is on the topic same, product safety and restricted substances in apparel. And as we all are mostly textile engineers and apparel background members over here, so this session of 1 hour, like it's 2:30 to 3:30, we have like 1 hour session, and it will be a great knowledge for us to learn about this product safety and also to understand about the restricted substances which are in apparels, and especially the QEs. For them it will be like very much helpful, like in apparel industry what are all restricted and about its safety aspect, because many times we used to get a complaint also on the kids garment where we didn't do the needle detection check or metal detection check. Sometimes we used to miss that on critical product, and we used to get a complaint from the clients on that. So today it's going to be a detailed session, not only on those aspect of inspection point of view. He is going to talk on aspect of testing point of view also for the apparel product. Okay, with this I will hand over to Dr. Suprada Das. He will take over the session further. Yes, sir. I will just share you the screen. You can say a few words, sir, so that they can see you, and then I can.
Yeah. So welcome to all in this session, and this is not a talk kind of thing. I'm not giving you a lecture. It's a kind of interactive sessions and all these things. If you want to interact, you can interact also. And I will talk in a very free manner, and all these things, free flowing materials are there with me. No jargons, nothing has been used there. In day-to-day practice, what we noticed, and most of them have been taken from my earlier experience in working with BV, Walmart, and CTL laboratory, and also in SGS, and also in Liangfeng. So most of the things have been taken from the buyers material where I worked, and also in the factories. Okay, so no theoretical inputs are there in this particular presentation. So based on my practical exposure to different areas, I have just prepared a very short presentations on these particular aspects, and detailed studies are also there. Detailed materials are also available on this in a book, and different other lecture materials and videos are available with me on this particular topic in different form. So let me start. If you just share the screen, we'll start now. Yes. So I can move the screen by clicking just,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Can use this.
Okay. So this topic, as you can see on the screen, that product safety and management of restricted substance in apparel. Okay, and as you can see from this particular topic, there are many things like a product safety, then restricted substances, apparel, all these things are available. And nowadays we cannot do business without all these things. So those, from business point of view, this particular your material is also very, very important. Okay, not only from the theoretical knowledge, but also if you want to do business, then what are the things you have to understand. If you want to go for inspection, if you want to go for testing, those things are all covered here in a very short form. That and what are the benefits of understanding all these things, how you want to implement, suppose as a factory, It is useful for factories also, because if they want to implement some kind of systems, so they are also such kind of knowledge is very, very important. Okay. So let us start that one of the words I am taking, that is the restricted substances. So what are the restricted substances? So that we'll try to see also that and what are those substances available in the fashion textiles, and how we'll designate those as restricted substance. That is very, very important. Since my time is very short, so maybe in between I will escape a few slides, okay, so that I can cover up what are the things I wanted to from your business perspective. Now, you can see a very general information is there that apparel industry, it uses 43 million tons of chemicals every year. So this is one of the very important information. So how these restricted substances have been derived based on this. Now, when you are talking about the restricted substances, you might have seen many apparel, the buyer's manual kind of thing. They call it as RSL also sometimes. And how RSL has come into the picture. Okay. And what are the chemicals, what are the substances will be available into this, and based on which kind of you can see some theory, or you can see based on which type of informations these restricted substances have come into the picture. That is very, very important to understand. And one of them is that some substances are banned and restricted for use, okay, in this particular apparel industry. Now, because it is a buyer driven, you see, buyer wants that his material will not contain these banned and restricted substances. So we have to undergo all this list, what are the list available with different buyers. And this list is very dynamic in nature also. You see, today you are formulating a restricted substances list, or you are referring a restricted substances list, but tomorrow or maybe after 3 months, it may change also. Okay. So it is a very dynamic in nature. That's why the REACH regulation, you might have heard that European community, the REACH regulations. So it changes quite often. They always add chemicals to that. They started with 5 of the chemicals substances in this REACH, but now it is more than 200. Okay. So that is the dynamism of this process. And
200 or banned.
yeah, it is restricted substances. Means REACH regulation means that the substances which are mentioned into that substances of very high concern, SBAC we call it as. Okay. So those chemicals are banned substances, or some of them can be used at a particular concentration. Below that concentration it is allowed. More than that it is not at all allowed. Okay. So those kind of things are also there. So we have to be thorough with this REACH regulation also about certain chemicals. Certain chemicals are banned totally. We cannot use those chemicals, and certain chemicals, if it is found in the article also, that can be used in a particular concentration or doses. That if it is found, it can still go for the export. Okay. Now, a very interesting thing is that restricted substances list, when you are talking, we are only talking about the end products. Okay. That is the finished goods. Okay. Restricted substances will not be tested in different other forms, like in the gray stage. I'm talking an examples. Okay. So restricted substances list is only applicable for the end products. That is the finished products, and that is which material will be shifting. We are shifting to these other countries. Okay. So that is the RSL. Now there is another terminology is there that I will come later. That is call it as a MRSL. Very, very important MRSL. That is I will cover it, but for your background knowledge, I'm telling, when RSL is talking about the end products or finished products, MRSL talking about total process, starting from the beginning of the chemical selection to the finished process. What are the process sequences are there? So all the chemicals and substances used are banned into this. So that is called MRSL, which I am not talking now. I am talking about RSL. So RSL is only for the end products, and that must be tested, and tested for the finished apparel only. Now, RSL are monitored in the end products, and how this is monitored, that we will see. Now, you can see that in the picture that
substance, what is that, sir? Yeah.
restricted substances list. Okay,
Restricted?
RSL list.
List.
List, that
Okay.
is RSL. Restricted substances list, that is called RSL.
Okay.
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 Now you can see that not only apparel, the shoe products are also there. Okay. So shoes and different kind of leather goods are also included in this category of RSL. So footwear is a generic terminology used for that. And also this has been used in the home textiles. Okay, different home products also. This RSL is equally applied. So RSL is not only for the textiles, it is applied in the case of home textiles also, and also in the footwear or the leather industry also. So these are the background of this application of this RSL. Now, this is a comprehensive list of restricted substances when we are talking about the RSL, and different buyers, they are having the different kind of list. You see that this is a example I've taken. Okay. So it is a global restricted substances list of Under Armour. Okay. So they are having their particular manual of that. So they are having a list of substances, but you see, if you go for the other buyers, they are having maybe the different restricted substances list. It depends upon the buyer to buyer, it varies. It is not very universal kind of a list which is prepared for this purpose. Now, restricted substances list, how we designate them as restricted substances. Okay. Number one is the global legislations. Okay. So global regulations have come into the picture. Now, how global regulations have come into the picture? It is based on the practical exposure, consumer survey kind of thing, and different case studies done by different buyers. And from there, this type of legislation have started. Like I'm talking about the legislation which is there in Europe, that is the REACH regulations. Okay, so REACH regulation has not started in one day. So different kind of feedbacks have been taken from the consumer, different case studies have been made. After that, only such kind of regulations are in place. And so restricted substances list when we are preparing. So global legislation is very, very important into that. So any restricted substances which are designated by buyers, that is also designated by these regulations also. Second one is the eco level criteria. Some of the eco levels are there, like a Ocotex, one of the examples, U flower. So those are kind of eco level gods. Okay, so these are the eco level kind of thing. So they are also certain criteria or certain substances are there which influence this RSL. Okay, so and third important factor of RSL is the NGO. Sometimes NGO, they pick up the goods, okay, and then they test the material, and they test the material for different brand buyers, and then they point out that yes, your material contains this kind of substances. So these are all the influencing factors. I can say influencing factors for determining the RSL. Okay. Now, these are the three important factors, but there are other factors are also there. That is the regulatory updated material. I am coming into that, what I was talking. Now, there will be always regulatory updation will be there, RSL. Different buyers will update the material into that. And importance of RSL is that no hazardous chemicals should be there in the supply chain or in the finished product. When I'm talking about the finished product, I'm talking about RSL. When I'm talking about the supply chain, I'm talking about MRSL. Okay. So basically, I'm not talking about the supply chain now. I'm talking about the finished products. So no hazardous chemicals should be present or detected in the finished products. It should take the consumer safety into this point when RSL is getting tested and nothing has been found. Then awareness and understanding is very, very important in this. What is RSL and how to understand this RSL, whether it is really RSL or not. Okay, so those kind of studies actually are to be carried out perfectly into this. Now, why are substances restricted? Okay, this is a very, very important questions for the beginners. Okay, who has not dealt with this RSL substances? Why are those are restricted? So number one point is that health aspect. Okay, so all these restricted substances, which I'm going to talk today in a very, I can say very short form, then that already all proven health effects are there of those chemicals or substances. So that's why it is a very influencing factors, important factors, health. Second one is the environment. So those kind of things, like I'm giving an example, we are wearing the shirts with the prints. Okay, sometimes prints contains the restricted substances. This print, the printed shirt after your use, when you throw into the environment, okay, it goes into the soil. Okay, and this soil, it is getting affected by those restricted substances. Okay, so environment is getting affected also by these restricted substances. So that also there. And I already talked about the regulation and legislations of a particular country. Different country, they are having the different regulations. Okay, it is a very complex nature. It is not only the US and Europe. There are various regulations like a Japan. Japan, they are having the different regulation. Korea, Taiwan, China, India, they are having a lot of regulations are in place. So those kind of regulations, we have to take it into account. So based on these, a substance is getting restricted, okay, and should not be used in the finished product or should not be detected. Now, I was talking about the human health. By human health, I was talking. I will give some examples onto this, how this is great importance on human health, because it is carcinogenic. That means it is cancer-causing materials are there into this. It is mutagenic, so it grows and multiply itself. Toxic to reproduction, CMR. So reproductive ability and all these things, if it is there, it is getting toxicated. And finally, it acts as an endocrine disruptor. That is hormonal imbalance it creates, some of the chemicals. I will, when I was going through my slides, I will tell you which chemical is having which kind of impact. Sometimes a chemical is having multiple impacts also in such human health when we are talking. Now, certain chemicals also is allergenic or skin synthesized. So because it is affecting the skin, okay, so that is very useful understanding into that we should not use dyes, chemicals which are allergenic in nature or direct impact on the skin. Okay, so those kind of dye stuff, some chemicals should not be used and should not be found. That is the thing in on the human health aspects. Now, effect of environment, it is very easy to understand how you pollute the environment. Now, there are substances which are persistent, okay, bioaccumulative and toxic to aquatic organisms. So that's why when we are washing the cloth, suppose you have to wash our cloth on day-to-day basis. So there are certain chemicals which are there, which will go into the environment and it affects the aquatic, the marine culture. Okay, marine culture is getting affected in the aquatic organisms. And when we take these marine products as a food, that is the seafood, we are also getting toxicated into that. So those kind of multiple effect will be there. It is bioaccumulative. Okay, if it is there in the atmosphere, okay, it will multiply itself. It is persistent. You cannot remove this. Okay, it is permanent in nature for the environment. So chemicals and substances, they are having this impact on the environment also. Now, regulations and legislations, when we are talking, they are different in different countries, as I already mentioned to you. And this depends upon that particular country's your political, your government or political restrictions. So many things are associated with this legislations kind of thing. And export also and the import of that country, that is also regulated by those regulations. Now, criteria for a substances to be included in an RSL. Very important. How we include a substance in the particular list, as I already mentioned to you. So legislations is one of them. Okay, so different legislations we have to see, like REACH regulation. I was talking registration, evaluation, authorization, and restriction of chemicals. Very important regulations in EU, and there are regulation in US like Toxic Substances Control Act. It is also a legislation. Now, I didn't mention some of the regulations here, like California Prop 65. So Prop 65 normally we tell it as full form is California Proposition 65. So in US, what happens? There are state level there are also certain restrictions. Okay, so California restrictions is also one of them. So any products which is go to California, so there different regulations are also there. So those kind of legislations are there in all the countries. Second one is the toxicological studies. Okay. Now, toxicological studies, when you are talking aquatic toxicity, oral toxicity, all these things comes into the play. So toxicological studies should be performed into that particular for that particular product, and we have to find it out that whether any kind of effect is there in different other species or not. So that is the toxicological study. Then eco levels, as I pointed out, one is the gold standard. So eco level is one of them, that criteria that where these restricted substances will come into this picture. Ocotec standard 100, this is also coming eco level. Some of the examples are also there into this. Now, precautionary principle, that is very, very important in controlling the RSL. So what are the precautionary principle we should take into while implementing the RSL? So the chemicals and substances which are potential to be harmful for human health or the environment, okay. And even if such studies are not complete, some chemicals are there where completions of the studies are not there. We do not know whether the chemical and substances used is really harmful for the us and the environment or not. So those kind of precautionary principles or suspected chemicals or substances needs to be investigated also in the precautionary principles. So based on these, RSL is getting determined. So that is one of the major area how this RSL has come into the place. Now, purpose of brand RSL, because here information to the suppliers should go into that suppliers of the restricted substances, the chemical suppliers or the substances which are supplied by the different suppliers to the factory. So they must be aware of these restricted substances. So information should reach to them. Okay, so that information to the suppliers, that's why is very, very important.
The
okay.
brand will be giving the information to the supplier.
Yeah, brand may give the information to the depending upon their infrastructure, they can give it to the buying office also. Buying office can in turn give it to the supplier, to the factory. In turn, factory can give this information to the suppliers. So in this chain also it may come, or this where the importers business is there, where this brand directly inform to the factory. So these are the things should not happen actually. This product should not be there in your
chemicals
product,
not be used.
in your or should not be found in a finished product. Okay, so that is called a brand RSL. Okay, brand is determining this information and giving to the suppliers of different products. Now, build and maintain the positive image of the brand. When
Sir, I
RSL,
had a question. Sir,
yeah.
I had a question. You said that the brand is giving this information that uh, which substances are restricted. So there are also laws of a particular country that restrict this kind of substances based on which they form regulations uh, that the brand also follows.
Actually, you see that some of the chemicals are very common chemicals. It is banned throughout the world. Any buyer, any factory, any kind of this one everywhere. Like I'm giving an examples of lead. Okay, lead if it is found in any finished product, or phthalate is if it is found in the finished product. These are the very universal kind of restricted substances. Any brand will take that. Okay. So it is totally, RSL is totally driven by the brand. You see, factory or the manufacturers of a particular apparel, I'm giving to you, that they don't want to test anything, because it is cost effectiveness will go na, with that, because it is highly cost this one cost incurring material kind of thing. Any kind of testing on such kind of substances like lead testing or banned dyes testing, okay, or phthalate testing. So many products are there in this world that RSL, if a factory want to test all these products, so that cost of that invoice, you just see, will be so high into that, they cannot afford to do that. That's why brand is totally on the top of that. Brand will regulate and brand will say, yes, for my product, I want that lead, cadmium, phthalate and nickel should be tested. Okay, I don't want to test other products. Okay, that is one way. Second way is that when the European regulation, I'm coming into the picture, that when a particular product is going into a European country, their REACH regulation must be fulfilled. Okay. So if a chemical is found which is under the REACH, okay, that banned substances or substances of very high concern, we call it as SVAC. So if that is there in the product, so automatically that will be stopped. If brand has mentioned or not, that RSL, if it is mentioned in that regulation, still that material cannot enter into that particular country because of the REACH regulation. That's why brand is very careful. Brand first see that whether this chemical leads to what they are preparing, which covers all the areas like Ocotex or the GOTS or this REACH regulations. So that particular but a particular team is there, compliance team is there for that. Okay, they see that whether this chemical and substance which are there, it is coming under RSL or not, or whether it has been restricted by the legislation or not. So based on that, they give. So it is totally driven by the buyers, the list and all these things, taking into account the cost effectiveness also. Okay. So I feel I have given little bit of elaboration. What is your answer was very simple, but make it elaborate. So
Sir, here the brand will give the RSL to suppliers based on the country, in which country they are going to export.
Yes. Now, interestingly, that's why I may lose time, but I should now tell to another very important fact. When we are exporting goods, I was with the Tommy Hilfiger brand. When you are exporting the goods from this Tommy your Liangfeng, so consignment was there for Europe. Most of the 10,000 pieces are there for the Europe, and only 500 pieces were there for China. Now you see products are made in a single factory, and what happens that products which are there for the Europe, it passed in the testing. Okay, and it has gone to that particular country. But 500 pieces which are meant for the China, it failed due to China GB testing. You know, China has very much funny restrictions are also there. So they see the order of the substances also. That particular substance has been stopped because of the order of the material. They see in the China GB testing 18,401 most probably. So they see the order of the material also. Okay. So whether that order is which kind of order it is. Okay. It is if it is a smell is not attractive kind of thing, or smell is little bit of kind of generation of certain kind of indication of certain formaldehyde or other kind of smell, if it is there due to processing and all this finishing, then it is a problem. And for that, the China, there is a huge amount of restriction. So a particular product has been prepared, which are good for European countries, but not good for the China. So China, we have to again process that material. We have to remove the smell kind of thing by different processing, and then it was shipped to the China. So this is a very complicated situation in RSL. So we have to be very careful that which country we are dealing with. So business aspects, that's why comes into the play. Okay. So, and the buyer in that case.
During inspections also, we check this bad order on the garments.
Hmm.
In case if any chemical smell comes, which is like hazardous to us,
Yeah.
we take them as a critical defect and we fail that shipment.
Yeah.
That is the reason what we do the smell check during the
Hmm.
inspection also on that.
So that olfactory senses, that is, we call it as a olfactory senses that is there in our human body. So that is called olfaction test. So that there is a particular test involved, very useful test. Normally we use that test nowadays for different aroma in textiles also. You use this. What type of smell it is? Okay, so that is a peculiar kind of thing for China testing. So that is the image of the brand. So particular brand when it is there, and that particular brand, how the image will be created? Image will be created when the brand will be particular signatory of different bodies also. Like one is the ZDSC coming to the picture. Okay, zero discharge of hazardous chemicals. So they must be the member of that one also. So positive image of the brand will be created when you are talking about the brand RSL. So this is restricted. This particular Levi's, they are having a brand name, because they are having a lot of your steps they have taken to restrict this particular RSL and MRSL. So that is a positive image of the brand. Throughout the world, people knows that these people are really very critical people Okay, so working with them is not easy, and the training of those kind of brand also is very thorough into that. They first train the factories. One of the representative of the factory, they first train the Levi's, and then that person, when they pass this chemical management system, that examination, online examinations, then only they recruit, they only place the order to that factory. So that is the brand. Okay, so that way the image is getting created to this brand. So that is the brand RSL kind of thing. Like I'm giving him a Decathlon. Decathlon also is very critical into this brand kind of restricted substances list. European countries, so they are having huge restriction, protection of human health and environment. Already I talked about this, so that is also very important into this. Now, purpose of brand RSL and compliance with different global regulations, as I already am talking with this. So very important is that different countries' regulation will be followed.
Now, like Decathlon is selling their product to many countries.
Yeah.
They're selling in France, they're selling in Spain, they're selling in India. So this product, whatever they are manufacturing, that supplier need to comply all the country regulations.
All the countries' regulations normally. And since European regulations are very stringent regulations, and most of the China, you will be surprised to understand, many of the China testing is also derived from the ISO regulations. Okay, so once a person is accompanying or is passing this European tests, that means they pass many of the tests, means except the China.
Okay.
China is the different regulations. China's this one, but definitely in other countries there is no kind of no problem at all for this. Okay, so that's why Decathlon, when they produce the goods and they follow these European norms, so they can ship to any countries in the world, but except China. China, if they want to ship, then they have to some other regulations also they have to follow. So that is the one of the major restrictions are there. And also in US also there are certain other restrictions are also there that I will be taught in maybe in next phases and all these things. I am not going to cover all these things now. So scope of the RSL, that it is in the detection in the finished product. Okay, and restricted substances, finished articles should not exceed the limit. Sometimes the like a lead may be present in the material, okay, like 90 ppm or 100 ppm. One is the surface coating and another is the material itself. Okay, so there this finished product, actually the exceeding limit is important. Okay, should not exceed that limit, 90 ppm or 100 ppm. That limit should not be exceeded into that, though lead is present in the material. So that is the scope of this RSL. And then the detection testing by standard testing method must be used there. So when RSL we are talking standard testing methods, all are analytical testing, and those are all standard international testing method. Mostly they are using the LCMS, GCMS, AAS. So all these analytical instruments are getting used, and maintenance of those equipments are very high, costly. Chemicals are involved. That's why cost of the testing also is very high into that. Now we have seen that if the very basic tests in the RSL, if anybody wants to perform in any kind of garment, it takes around 25,000 rupees. In Indian rupees, I'm talking 25,000 Indian rupees. Only the basic tests. Okay, so this testing cost will increase as and when this RSL list is increasing, this cost also will increase. So this is a requirement, you see, that this one has to follow in that. So there is RSL manual I was talking. Each buyer is having their own RSL manual. The substances name should be there. Okay, in that chemical abstract number should be there. So by which you can identify that substances in the RSL. This also contained limit values of each restricted. That's why I was talking the lead limits and all these things. Phthalate also 0.1%, some limit is there. So limit values are also very important when restricted substances we are talking. Then the not detected and detection limit. This is very important to understand. Sometimes a lab is used an instrument where the detection limit, okay, is very high. Okay, detection limit. So in that, though there is the presence of restricted substances, but lab will detect that it is not detected because of the instrument. Okay, so that's why it is very important at which level, ppm level or ppb level, what level actually parts per million, parts per billion, which level we want the detection. Okay, so that not detected terminology is very, very dangerous terminology. It depends upon the instrument also, detection limit. Sometimes a lab gives a report that not detected, but it has been found that there are restricted substances in the final product, because then investigation was carried out and they found that the instrument what they are using, the detection limit of that instrument was set at a very high level, okay, not at a lower level. So lower level detection limit is important to check also, that whether there is the chemical or substance is present or not. Then only we can tell about the detection level. Now, RSL manual, this kind of manual is there. Okay, test methods are also prescribed. Regulations are also mentioned into this, under which it is getting. So different kind of buyers, they are having this restrictions kind of thing, like PBH, restricted substances list, which is followed by Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, and other group which are associated with them. So these are the RSL.
Sir, you said just now that are not detected
Yeah.
and decision limits.
Mhm.
Suppose here the laboratory has given the past report,
Mhm.
but once the goods reaches to the destination,
Mhm.
their report is coming fails.
Mhm.
And how to identify where it is the test limit is correct or not?
That's why the particular your RSL list, when the buyers are preparing, so they must mention that at which level they want this detection limit kind of thing. Otherwise, the laboratory, they do not have anything. Present equipment, they will test it. Okay. Many laboratory, that's why they do not have that capacity also sometimes to test the RSL, because the detection limit, they cannot meet the detection limit kind of thing in their equipment. So that's why equipment also is very, very important, plays a major role.
Then how to verify that laboratory is having that or not? Otherwise, they will give the report as
No, that laboratory immediately, they, when a particular request has been sent to the laboratory for testing, they immediately see that.
Okay.
So whether it is available or not with them equipment. So good laboratories and multinational laboratories, they immediately inform that this is the thing happened into this. So that is the way. Now many cases are there like this. It happened like that. It has been detected, not detected, but it has been found. It has been detected. Okay. We also found such kind of products in while doing some testing for a scarf product for Tommy Hilfiger. One of the laboratories are given not detected in India. I'm talking in a band amines kind of thing. So the dye stuff which are used, they told that these band amines not present or something they give. So there was some doubt about this to some other people. So they tried to test it in some other labs. So they found there are certain kind of chemicals or band amines are also available. So then it is a problem for that. Okay. So that's why the laboratory should be matured enough to understand what is the detection limit and when they will, should not give such kind of comment. And the laboratory, they are also doing some legal restrictions at the laboratory. When they give the test report, you just see at the this one bottom of that, they also mention the what is the detection limit. Okay, they are honest into that approach also. Laboratories are honest. They give that within this detection limit, this is not detected.
Right.
Okay, so they are legally safe. Most of the laboratories become legally safe because of that one. Okay, it is a problem of the buyers, problem of the consumers, problem of the factories. So that they have to do it. Okay,
Right.
so let me continue because time is going to be very crucial. Harmful substances, when you are talking, harmful substances may go to wastewater, air, and sludge. Okay, but it is not considered in the RSL. You see, the one of the limitations of the RSL, that's why you are talking, the material which is washed out or it is going into the air or in the sludge, it is not detected, it is not considered as RSL. Okay, so this is not RSL. RSL only talking about the end product. So this is very important to understand. So this is the picture what has been shown here, some dyestuffs and chemicals which are there going into this river stream. This is not RSL. Okay, if RSL cannot be detected here. Okay, if it is detected also, it doesn't matter for the finished product, because finished product they didn't find anything. Okay, but people may find the those kind of hazardous substances in this if they taste this wastewater. Okay, so that's why the terminology is different for that. Limitation of RSL, discharge of restricted substances is not covering. it covers only the end product, not the manufacturing areas. Okay, manufacturing areas are covered under MRSL. I will just talk with this MRSL little bit so that you can understand basic terms which are used RSL. Also, to understand a buyer manual is very important. Also, when if you want to review some buyer manual of RSL, cash number is very important. Chemical abstract services number. Okay, each chemical is having some number. Okay, and buyer is also giving that number. So the database, if anybody wants to check, so that number is very important. Detection limit, I was talking like detection limit of APOs, alkyl phenol ethoxylates is 10 ppm. Lab can detect APO at 10 ppm only. If you tell the lab to detect the APO at 8 ppm level, they cannot do it because that instrumental drawback I was talking. So this is very important, the detection limit. That's why reporting limit also, RL of APOs is 30 ppm. You are reporting as 30 ppm. Laboratory has to report above 30 ppm. Okay. So laboratory cannot report it is a 20 ppm. Okay. Laboratory has to report above 30 ppm because of this. They are instrument and all these things. So restricted substances APO. That's why this is very important. The reporting limit of RL. Okay, restricted substances. So this is all coming from the detection. Not detected also in his finished garment is 20 ppm, but your limit is set at 30 ppm. Okay, but that particular finished product contains 20 ppm already, so it is a hazardous content. It already there in that finished product, but laboratory is not detecting that because laboratory is detection limit starts from 30 ppm and above. Okay, but there is restricted substances. So these are the drawback actually also. Laboratory, that's why has given not detected because of this particular kind of understanding. Usage ban and prohibited. Some usage ban on APO is that unavoidable contamination, traces residues are considered into that. So APO is totally banned actually into that. Limit value, maximum allowable concentration of the residual substances which are there. That is called the limit value. This is for understanding the buyer's manual in RSL when you are talking. Then that is milligram per kilogram. This is very important. That is the ppm when you are talking. So when you see the limit that I was talking about 90 ppm, 100 ppm, all these things. This is in the milligram per kilogram level. That is the ppm level. So there are also restrictions are there. μg per ag, that milligram per kilogram, how it is getting defined. That is given here. Sometimes they give it instead of ppm into that. Milligram per liter also sometimes it is getting allergenic dispersed dyes they are giving by this kind of thing. Then milligrams, micrograms per square centimeter per week. It is for nickel testing. Nickel, if you see, this kind of testing is there, and this is the formula or milligram per square centimeter per week. It is getting represent for releasable metal content, that is a nickel release. This kind of normally in the buttons and all these things it is getting detected. So nickel also is another harmful substances. Parts per million, so parts of a whole number as I was talking. So that way it is given parts per million. Normally it is expressed in parts per million. Any kind of restricted substances, parts per billion, it is also requirement. Okay, when a buyer is very stringent, so that time more accuracy is required. So parts per billion then comes. So 1000 times smaller than ppm. So very minute detections if anybody wants to do, then they'll go for this. Okay. So risk, major risk areas where it is available RSL. So that we can see now a little bit. Dye houses or fabric mills, this risk area. Garment washing units, printers, leather processing units. So these are the major risk area where this RSL can be present and RSL can be generated. Pre-treatment like singeing, scouring, bleaching, mercerization. Okay, so wetting agent, scouring agent. So those kind of agents also potential RSL can come from there. Mainly the APOs I was talking, they are mainly from this wetting agent, or emulsifying agent, scouring agents, like your normal detergents what you are using, they are also it contains. So pre-treatment materials contains the lubrication agents, preservative in enzymes. So those are all different chemicals are used into that and all are restricted into that. So those names and all these things you have to find it out that which chemical is used, like preservative in starch sizes. Okay, Lot of pentachlorophenols have been used. Okay, OCP has been used, TECP has been used. So a lot of such preservative agents are used in the starch sizes. Those are banned actually. Polyacrylic based sizes. There are also the restrictions are there. So those are all restricted substances which can be found in the finished products. Dyeing and printing, it is tremendous opportunities are there to improve upon, because many of the chemicals and pigments, it has been found. Lubricating agent, yes, of course it is there. So a lot of lubricating agents, they contain these harmful chemicals, where we need to study very carefully all the chemical list. Carrier used in the dyeing of polyester, this is also a potential restricted substances which is available in these pigments. Many of the pigments are also restricted. Okay, one should not use those chemicals. So the database we need to monitor correctly. Mineral turpentine oils, that is also there. Various dye fixing agents which are used. Okay, those are also potential RSL. Many of the dye fixing agents have come out from formaldehyde based compounds. Okay, so that's why this is also banned. Okay, so dye fixing agents you have to also select very carefully. And there are binders and fixers used in printing, washing agent, dispersing agent. Those are all potential hazardous chemicals and substances. Finishing, of course, there are various resins used for durable finishes. So DMDHU is one of them. So many of the resins are potential carcinogenic effects are there, like they are urea and formaldehyde based. Then silicone softeners, they are also carcinogenic in nature. Those kind of things, if it is found, then the material cannot be shipped. Okay, at the final stage, many of the oil and water repellent finishes contains the fluorochemicals. So these are potential carcinogens and skin irritating agents. So those also should not be used. Flame retardant finishes are used. Many of the isocyanides and all these things are used in this industry. They are all brominated compound, chlorinated compounds. Those are all potential carcinogens are there into that. So carefully you have to select all this material. PU dispersions, polyurethane dispersions, then different resins, cross-linking agents which are used. So those needs to be checked also for this. That's why finishing agents is very, very important. Acrylonitrile based coatings which are there, stabilizer for PVC, antimicrobial agent used for your antibacterial finishes. Okay, different mildew growth and all these things can be prohibited by these antimicrobial agents. So those are potential carcinogenic, potential skin irritating agents which are used there in those kind of thing. Garment washing units, of course, the wrinkle resistance finishing or wrinkle free finishes wants to give resin should be used. So there you will get a lot of RSLs, weighting agents. Of course, RSLs are also there into that. So different RSL can be detected in different forms. Scouring agents used, lubricating agents used. So those are all coming under this RSL category. So garment washing unit contains also the anti-backstaining agents. So that color which is coming out, it should not be there on the surface. Okay, again. So that is also part of this activity. So those are the important areas. Okay, the important areas of applications in those units, like a PU coatings, then enzymes used in fading purpose and biopolishing in garment washing units. Those also contains the RSLs. Okay, printers, of course, binder and fixer, as I already was telling, many of the washing agents used, that is also covered under this category. Plastisol prints, that is also very, very potential carcinogen. The phthalate which is used in the printing, normally a lot of fluffy effect you will get, a lot of softness you will get in the prints because of this phthalate. So phthalate is also a banned chemical, and phthalate, if it is used 0.1% is the limit kind of thing. If it is used more than that, then it's a problem. So plastisol inks, okay, so we have to be very careful about that, dyes and pigments which are used in printing also. So everywhere you can see that RSL can be used. So we have to be very carefully monitor those kind of things. It happens in the leather processing also, like a tanning agent, then some dyes which are used, okay, tanning agents and chrome kind of chrome dyes and all these things, potential elements which are carcinogen. Then direct dyes are used, acid dyes which are used, pigments which are used. They contain all these allergenic dyes and all these chemicals. Then syntans used in the leather processing, washing units which are there. They are also potential RSLs are available. So buyers, when they formulated the manual, they take care of all these things, the softeners, coating, enzymes, okay, dye stuffs, etc. Different finishing agents which are not to be used as RSL because which are proven, okay. So these are the restricted substances list. Very quick glimpse of that. Many allergenic discharge dyes, then asbestos, azo cadmium, carcinogenic dyes. Okay. Then chlorinated organic carriers. I was talking a lot of flame retardants, formaldehyde, hexavalent chromium. So this list is a very exhaustive list kind of thing. So those kind of list one has to study that if they want to follow these restricted substances. There are compounds like lead, mercury, nickel, heavy metals. Okay, nonyl phenols. I was talking about APOs. Okay, then a lot of organotin compounds which are used as anti-fouling agent in the paints also. Then a lot of ozone depleting agents are also there, like a refrigerant, that is a ozone depleting agent. So many of the chemicals are having those properties. Okay, so those kind of things we have to be carefully regulate when we are testing those things. So management of restricted substances in apparel is very, very important. That's why you can see this picture that how and what stage all these things should be in the supply chain, it should be tested. Okay, so those kind of testing should be done, and people should be aware of these restricted substances at all the levels. Then only this list can be maintained correctly, so that vendors and the suppliers, everybody will be carefully following that one. So implementation program contains this RSL testing, quality control, and throughout the supply chain, this should be commitment should be there from all the stakeholders. And finally, the training of the internal staffs, that is also very, very important. The communication to the people about the RSL, not only to the internal stakeholders, but of the outside, that is the suppliers, different people who are processing their products, okay, subcontractors, they also must know about this RSL. Then only the program will be successful into that. And one must has got this proper knowledge of the regulations also, so that communication to the suppliers facilities is very, very important. We have to inform through letters, we have to give the legislations to the suppliers also to educate them. And finally, the testing is very, very important at how we are identifying, how we are communicating the test laboratories, like the banned substances, the detection limit and all these things what we are discussing. And the database, creation of the database is very, very important for that, to the past record of a certain chemicals. So storing of the data, that's why is very, very useful into this brand RSL testing. Now, continuous improvement and the best practices that must be followed over the experiences in the supply chain, and then only the restricted substances can be eliminated from the total manufacturing, total finished products. I will give a little description about MRSL now. MRSL is manufacturing restricted substances list, as you can see from the picture that I was talking about the banned material. Okay, but what is the actual remedy of that one? So there must be a positive chemistry list should be there. Okay, so raw materials and chemicals which are the replacement of that, we call it as a positive chemistry list, positive chemicals. So that should be used in the manufacturing restricted substances list at the starting from the beginning. Then only your end product should be restricted substances free. So that MRSL is very, very important term actually in this industry. These contain hazardous substances. RSL materials are all there in the MRSL, but MRSL only difference is that this is there in the shoe, footwear industries, they are in the apparel industries, in the metal parts, all everywhere this MRSL also is there along with the RSL. Now JDSC MRSL. So this is very, very important part. I am having a short video. If you allow me to run, I can run. It is very useful for understanding JDSC MRSL. Let me see if we can run this video about the JDSC MRSL. And what is this JDSC that one must understand when they go for this MRSL. So that do not know whether this can run in this. There is a video here where we have to. Behind the beautiful advertising, the catalog letter, and the filthy tone of vision, lies more that those inside the industry do not want you to see, and definitely don't have to talk about.
That voice is not coming, Prasuna. Is there some sound also? Because we cannot get any sound.
Okay, Ginny, you cannot hear the sound?
No.
Okay, just a minute.
So no, also screen hanged.
Okay, okay, just a minute, just a minute.
Fashion.
You just
Behind the beautiful advertising, the catwalk glamour, and the billion-dollar business lies a world that those
Is it audible
inside the
enough?
industry do not want you to see,
Yes,
and
Prasanna.
definitely don't want you to talk about. Dark, dirty, and full of invisible threats, this is fashion. Behind the beautiful advertising, the catwalk glamour, and the billion-dollar business lies a world that those inside the industry do not want you to see, and definitely don't want you to talk about. Dark, dirty, and full of invisible threats, this is a world founded on a toxic addiction that is destroying our beautiful waterways. The facts are alarming. In China alone, 320 million people are without access to clean drinking water. 40% of the surface water is considered polluted, and a staggering 20% of the groundwater used as urban drinking water is contaminated, sometimes with carcinogenic chemicals. In Indonesia, our latest investigation revealed a textile facility releasing pH 14 water and a cocktail of hazardous and hormone-disrupting chemicals straight into the local water supply. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Just one of thousands of factories in Indonesia and around the world that are treating our public waterways like private sewers. And the problem runs deeper than that. The clothes we buy in Europe, North America, Asia, and elsewhere are all part of a global chain of toxic pollution. Two-thirds of clothing items tested by Greenpeace contain hazardous chemicals, and when these garments are washed, they release these substances back into rivers, lakes, and seas around the world. This makes us all part of the problem, but we can also be part of the solution. Around the world, activists, fashionistas, designers, bloggers, and models are joining together as part of the global detox campaign, united behind a common belief that beautiful fashion shouldn't cost the earth. Over 1 million people have taken action challenging big brands including Zara, Levi's, and Victoria's Secret to take responsibility for their toxic footprint and eliminate all hazardous chemicals from their supply chains and products. And these major corporations are listening. From luxury houses like Valentino to fast fashion retailers including H&M, big brands are paying attention to the global call for toxic-free fashion. These brands are now beginning to substitute out the worst chemicals. They are also working with their suppliers and the chemical industry to develop solutions, creating a growing marketplace for non-hazardous alternatives. For too long, reckless industrial pollution has occurred in the shadows. By shining a light on the situation, we can accelerate the changes that are taking place. Polluting in the dark is unethical. Polluting in the full glare of the media spotlight is a PR disaster. There is still a long way to go, but our successes so far prove that when we join together, change is possible. Our message is clear. Those brands and suppliers that are transparent about their progress and that take credible and authentic action have an opportunity to win people's trust and loyalty. Those that choose fashion.
Okay.
So looking on the timing and it's getting stuck over here.
Okay,
So
okay.
we can go next.
So I was just going to tell you about this MRSL, and this was a very interesting video actually JDSC released long back. So I thought of showing to you. And MRSL talking about the contaminants and all these things. And if you see the difference between RSL and MRSL, so it is a restricted substances in the finished product, and another one restricted substances in the chemicals and substances and in the total supply chain. So MRSL talks about total supply chain and RSL talks about only the finished product. So that is the difference between MRSL and RSL. One has to be very carefully monitor the MRSL part and the RSL part, because many times many RSLs are there in MRSL list also with additional some of the chemicals. So that is the difference between MRSL and RSL. And scope is, of course, that you have already seen that where this MRSL takes into account, that is the dye stuff industry. So it pollutes the wastewater, where RSL is not taking about that process kind of sequences. So different processes that they should not use the MRSL chemicals. That is the challenge before the manufacturers and the processors also. Cleaners, solvents, adhesives, stabilizers, all are covered under this MRSL. So one has to very strictly monitor in the factory all these things. It includes the paints, it includes the inks, includes different detergent used in the processes of washing and all these things, dye stuffs which are used in the dyeing, pigments which are used in the printing. These are all covered under this MRSL. So we have to carefully see the list. And finally, the implementation part is very, very important. How you want to implement the MRSL in a factory. Mapping the inventory is one of them. What are the inventory you are using chemicals? Communicate to the suppliers, okay, about this. Declaration from the suppliers needs to be taken that their material, materials do not contain any kind of contaminations or hazardous substances given by the buyers. Then you have to prepare the list of chemicals, okay, positive list of chemicals, and then safer alternatives, okay. What are the alternatives? If there are certain chemicals which are hazardous in nature, so what are the alternative chemicals? So these are the 5 steps actually needs to be followed in the industry. That one is called the MRSL in the chemicals in the workplace. Even the sludge and the wastewater also is covered under this MRSL. If any pollution control board, if anybody comes and tests the wastewater in the process or the sludge, and if they find any kind of restricted substances, factory can be closed also. Buyers also can taste all these products. I have seen many of the buyers, they visit the units actually. And they see their treated water plant, wastewater plant. They want to see their monitoring their all the test reports, whether they contain the MRSL chemicals or not. So those way actually the buyers also monitor these processes whether MRSL is present there or not. So MRSL talks about the positive chemistry list, manufacturing restricted substances list used in the factory and the processes, and restricted substances in the product. Okay, so these are the major differences between the RSL and MRSL. So MRSL, the legal or banned specifications and restrictions also will be there from the brand, like RSL, hazardous substances, and different groups are also there in the brand RSL and MRSL chemical group documents. Those may not be the same one. Okay, it may differ. Okay, but MRSL is very comprehensive one while we are doing the processing. So that is the difference between RSL and MRSL, and this is a very fast presentations of these restricted substances in the different product, and how to manage the restricted substances in the factory and in the finished product. So thank you very much. If you are having any question, please.
Thank you, Professor Das. It was very informative. Many things we see day to day, but we never think about it, why it is like this. But your presentation, is very thoughtful, and it gives a lot of information about it.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, so any quiz have any doubts on this restricted substances, and then MRSL what sir had clarified? If you have any doubt, any clarifications, quiz, you can talk. We will take another another like 5 minutes, and then we'll close this session. So QEs or maybe anybody from Bangalore office. Anyone has any doubts from here? All are textile engineers. So okay, anybody from Noida office? You want to ask any question? You can raise your hand and then you can ask. We'll take another 4 minutes to take the questions and you will be answering. Okay, anybody has any doubts? Seems everyone seems to be like fully thorough on this subject.
No. Actually, this should be learnt actually through experiences. One thing I just want to share you too. It is only one day you cannot read the books or read the PPT and understand everything. It is actually practical knowledge on the subject is very required. And a lot of case studies. Case studies are very important. Case studies are there. I did a lot of case studies kind of thing materials before writing a book onto this. So that's why all these practical things which have come. Those things have been put into these slides. Okay, I have just removed many other unwanted material which are there, and this whatever I have told you, this is all about the management of the restricted substances and MRSL. I have not touched many of the things on product safety, honestly speaking, because product safety is a different chapters altogether. Maybe in different other sessions we will talk about the apparel product safety when a merchandiser reviews certain garments. Okay, when a product when a order is placed to a factory or when an order is coming from the buyer. So what are the things has to be done? Okay, what are the risk assessment? Okay, that is basically called the order risk assessment. How to do it? So product safety plays an important role also into that. So maybe in some future talk we will cover that one. Here it is so elaborate in nature, I could not cover many of the things. Okay.
So, thank you, sir. And Ginny has one. She raised her hand. So Ginny, you can ask your question.
Yeah, thanks, Krishna. So, Professor Das, can I request you, like as you shared for apparel, so in your maybe in your next sessions, can you also cover for the hardline products like uh, the glass items which get shipped or the home decor items? Even they have some kind of restricted substances like for considering the food safety tests which are done. So it would be great if you could cover it in your upcoming like sessions.
Yeah, definitely this will be there. Okay, and another thing actually I also didn't touch. That's why toys. Toy industry is a big industry. You know the toy. What is the product safety kind of thing associated with the toys? Food also, of course, is a very important area. Which and also the home textiles. These are the very lucrative areas as you have pointed out. So we should cover all these things also in future. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you, sir. So I think team had got like very good value out of this session. We got like good knowledge on this restricted substances list and what and all to be taken care about the regulations, about the health, which is affecting the environment. All those things we got, and surely like anybody has any doubts in the future also related to this topic, like sir has like very vast knowledge on this, and we can always contact him, and then he'll be happy to give a detailed information on us to us on the same. And so with this, we can close this session. Thank you very much for all of your time, and thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.